Anybody know what Barbie, Saw X, Talk to Me, Spider-Man No Way Home, Queen's Gambit, and Inception have in common? Listen, around 90% of Hollywood feature films have our hero going after one of these 6 objectives. These are known as commercial goals. Do you know what they are? If you already know what they are, don't give this video a like. Give it a dislike and just leave. But not only will you know what these 6 objectives are, but you're gonna see how Hollywood writers utilize these 6 objectives in blockbuster films. Now, these commercial goals are to win, to stop, to escape, to retrieve, to deliver, and to survive. These are the goals our main characters must achieve before the end of the film. Look, if you don't learn anything in this video, just dislike this video and walk away, okay? But if you get any value out of this video, if you laugh, you giggle, you chuckled, or you enjoyed or genuinely learned something, then give this video a like whenever the spirit of the likes compels you. And if we're feeling really frisky, we can do me one of those super likes. Helps me out tremendously, and it's my only form of payment, so thanks. Now, as we discussed briefly before, our heroes must pursue 6 visible objectives before the end of the film. It's just one of those broad stroke ways to make our screenplays more commercial. But first and foremost, just remember to keep this in mind above all. Our purpose in writing screenplays isn't to merely get our main characters to simply act. It is to elicit the strongest emotions possible out of our reader and out of our audience. And having our audience relate to our main characters, complex relationships, and providing some insight as to how they may make decisions. It's a great jumping off point to make that empathetic connection happen. But you also want to leave a little bit of mystery behind your main characters, just so your audience doesn't have it all figured out from page 1. Now, we're about to take a dive into how these commercial goals are used in your favorite Hollywood blockbuster films. To win, Queen's Gambit. Now, our MC is a gifted chess player who was forced into the foster system as a child. Now, one of the principles we can utilize to get our reader to connect to our audience is to get them to empathize with our main character. This is the story all about a woman who grew up in the 1950s, underdog, who's been thrown into the foster system, underdog, whose desire is to become the absolute best in a primarily male-dominated sport. So it's a true underdog story. So we as the audience have no choice but to hop on board. And on top of dealing with all of that, she continued to battle with the reoccurring question internally: was she good enough? Could she provide for herself and become that independent woman who she's always dreamed of? Could she stand up and win against all of the extremely talented chess players who stood in her way? Now, these are just a few components of her overall central conflict. But remember, when it comes to the commercial goals in our screenplays, it's not simply about just winning. It's about what winning represents in the eyes of our main character. And if you recall in the series, as she racked up her wins, we started to see her blossom and become the woman we all hoped she'd be since page 1. Number 2, to stop, Barbie. Now, our main character is a doll living in Barbie world, but when her happy, carefree days begin to feel meaningless and mundane and her flawless looks begin to fade, she starts on her perilous journey to stop cellulite. Now, there's a lot to commend Greta Gerwig for in this film, but to merely say that this film is all about stopping the formation of cellulite on Barbie would be doing this story a huge disservice. Because we all know that it's not what this story is actually about, right? The commercial goal is simply a starting off point, but it's what our main character learns about themselves and the world at large that makes this goal so meaningful. Barbie learns that she doesn't want to be in Barbie world anymore. She learns that she really wants to live in reality and experience all the joys, the pain, and pleasures that only comes from being a real woman. Number 3, to survive. Talk to me. Now, the story follows our MC Mia, who we know is kind of struggling to adjust to a world without her mother. Now, this is merely a jumping off point for her central conflict. Since she doesn't have her mother grounding her to her true self, she feels as if she's forced to do whatever it takes to fit in with the crowd. But unfortunately, this opens up a door. And what come through that door ain't pretty. This opens the door to some truly terrifying entities occupying her body and doing with it whatever they desire. And this eventually drives her deeper and deeper into pure insanity. Number 4, to escape. Saw X. Now we know he died in Saw 3, but here we follow an extremely sick Jigsaw who is in search for a cure of his terminal illness. Now this film utilizes a few commercial goals in it, right? But I'm using to escape in this example, so just bear with me. After learning that the cure for his illness is potentially out there, he sets out on a mission to find a doctor who has a cure. But unfortunately, these group of individuals were not as altruistic as they made themselves out to be. And this deception put themselves square in Jigsaw's crosshairs. So now, to survive, these unlucky con artists are forced into Jigsaw's deadly traps where they must escape by sacrificing a part of themselves. Now, one of the key ways Jigsaw justifies the usage of these grotesque traps is that he perceives these traps as physically sacrificing the impure parts of themselves in order to come out of these traps better people. Now, if we can look past Jigsaw's barbaric traps and his God complex, and we're just trying to dig into the reason why these traps exist to begin with, is that the purpose of these traps is to purify his victims of the sins that they've committed. Number 5, to deliver. Inception. Now, Hobbs is a dream thief who is tasked with the difficult job of planting an idea inside the mind of a CEO. As the audience traverses through this complex story, we learn more and more about Hobbs and how the nature of his job led to his wife's demise. And of course, he blames himself because he planted an idea inside of his wife's mind that eventually led to her death. As a result of this, there's a war being waged inside of Hobbs's mind. And this continues to disrupt the flow of the current mission that they're on, making this mind-bending job so much more deadly for himself and his team, causing the mission to be next to impossible to complete. Number 6, to deliver. Spider-Man, No Way Home. Now, we're introduced to Peter Parker in this movie when the cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. And this puts a tremendous strain on every single relationship Peter Parker has. So he consults Mr. Fix-It, Dr. Strange, to make everyone, except for all of the important people in his life, to forget. But unfortunately, due to some crazy magic multiverse mumbo-jumbo, this provided enough room for some antagonists who are then dead to land squarely in that universe that Spider-Man's occupying. And now it's up to Peter to retrieve the cure for what's wrong with all of these bad guys and get them back to normal so that they can actually get back to their respective universes alive and well. If you're a filmmaker, do yourself a favor, grab yourself a clover key. It's a camera plate, screwdriver, and a bottle opener. If you haven't seen my film, please check it out right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, such a pleasure chatting with you guys. Until next time, peace.